Welcome back to Casuals Corner, and today we're going to be having a look at the Aljamain Sterling v Petr Yan breakdown. Now, in the lead up to 259, we're going to be having a look at all the main title fights, and today we're going with this one, and potentially, arguably, could be one of the most exciting fights, I think, but we'll get into it. Frank, give us a wave.
What's happening? I agree with you, by the way, that it may be one of the most exciting fights. I'd say out of the three, it's probably the most 50-50, the hardest one to call. Like, we have a good idea of maybe what will happen in the other two, but this is definitely the biggest 50-50.
100%. Right, we'll get into that in a minute. And before we do, I'm just going to give us a quick little breakdown at look at the history of the two fighters and a couple of stats going into it. So
let's go.
We have a look at Sterling first. He's sitting at a 19-3 record. And his last fights, he had Sandhagen, obviously with that, within 40 seconds, I think it was, rear naked choke. I'm going to butcher their names, and I know how to say it as well. Munoz?
You got it right. Yeah, you got it. Petr Munoz.
Yeah. The funny thing is, actually, he's two fights before that, before the Sandhagen, was Munoz and Rivera, who actually fought on the card last week. So we've got Sandhagen, Munoz by decision, Rivera by decision. Then he had Cody Starman, Nibar, and then Brett Jones a decision as well. So some killers in that last five, and an undefeated last five as well, which is impressive.
Fire. He's on fire.
And then we have Petr Yan, who's coming in 15-1, undefeated in the UFC, and just the same as Sterling, really. He's got some killers on his list. Arguably one of the biggest of all time. Aldo in his last fight by TKO. Right Faber before that, TKO. Rivera as well, who's got a win over on the decision, same as Sterling. Dodson by decision, and Andrade by KO as well. And just before we get into the meat and potatoes, I'm going to walk you through some of their stats. So we'll start with Aljamain Sterling, or the Funk Master. And we posed the question the other day, what is our favourite names? And I completely forgot about him, to be fair. And the Funk Master, yeah, for me, that's up there.
It works. It works.
So 5'7", 135 pounds, all that, blah, blah, blah. Reach of 71 inches, which is actually a 4-inch reach advantage over Petr Yan, but we'll get into that in a minute. Strikes landed per minute, actually very, very high, 4.82. Strike accuracy, 50%. Strikes absorbed per minute, relatively high again, 1.94. Sorry, ignore that. Not that high. I'll make more sense of that in a second. Strikes absorbed per minute, 1.94. Striking defense, 66%. Takedown averages per 15 minutes, 1.89. As we know, he's a very, very accomplished wrestler, so that's no surprise there. Takedown accuracy is lower than I probably thought it was going to be at 29%. Takedown defense at 51%, and submission average every 15 minutes is 1, which is actually very, very high. You don't often see it as high as that.
You've got 25 minutes to find 1.
Exactly that. So if you think of it like this as well, these stats are per 15 minutes. So if you look at a 5-round fight, which is 25 minutes, let's just call it 30 for the sake of it, just to make it easier on my maths. There's actually 2 submissions per 5 rounds, or maybe technically just slightly under, which is a lot, and you don't often see it that high. And then we have Petr Yan on the other hand, who 5'7", 135 pounds, all the same there. Reach of 67 inches, which, like I said, is a 4-inch reach advantage. Quite young as well. Like, I forgot how young Petr Yan is. He's got a weird hybrid of a sort of baby face that's seen it all.
Yeah, he's like a weathered baby. Yeah,
he's like a weathered baby.
Yeah.
Strikes landed per minute, high, 6.32 as an accomplished boxer. We sort of no surprises there either. Striking accuracy, the exact same. What I meant to say was Petr Yan strikes absorbed per minute was much higher than Aljamain Sterling's with 3.25, which is actually very, very high. Striking defense, 63%, so quite similar there. This is the one that quite surprised me, to be fair. Takedowns on average, 1.45. Takedown accuracy, 52%. So it's actually not a million miles off. The takedown averages is not a million miles off Aljamain Sterling, which I was surprised at. But the takedown accuracy was actually much higher as well, which was a bit of a funny one. And a very, very big stat, which I think is going to play quite a key role in this fight, is his takedown defense, which is 88%, which is very, very impressive. And then submissions average 0.2. So if we have a look at that compared to 1, obviously,
there's some good stats. Some good stats.
So yeah, that finishes us up for the stats. Anything that sort of jumped out?
His output, it's just Petr Yan's output. It's just crazy. He's just, he's a savage. There's no two ways about it. If you like him or you don't, he's a savage. He's got that belt for a reason. So I'd definitely say, like I said before, this fight is easily the most 50-50 out of all the 3 title fights, no doubt.
The thing is with Yan, he is a very, very accomplished boxer. So that statistic there was no sort of surprise.
Yeah,
I think when the fight starts, obviously we've got 25 minutes of it, and I think it may take Yan a little while just to get a read on Aljamain. He's a very he's not very orthodox in the way he fights. He comes from weird angles. He's very in and out. So we know that Yan likes to have that style of sort of marching people down, and he can sort of switch stance. He's very fluid, which makes him very, very effective on the feet. So I think it may take him a little while just to sort of figure him out and get the read on him. I think it will be interesting to see Sterling's approach, because we know he's going to have to be very in and out. He doesn't want to sort of sit there, stand and trade. I don't think he can afford to do that. But I think, especially with Petr Yan, he has to pick his moments when he comes in, because I think if he miscalculates it and gets stuck in there, I think he can find himself in some dark water, because Petr Yan applies pressure like not a lot of people in the UFC.
This is the thing though, right? Like so in terms of Aljamain Sterling, it's funky by name, funky by nature, right? Everything he does is somewhat unorthodox, and he's able to transition so well from striking to grappling that he can mix it up in this fight. And then Aljo, again, even when he does get you to the floor, he's able to mix ground and pound into submission. So he will really have the element of surprise. You know, he knows what Jan's going to do to an extent, right? But Aljo can mix it up, and I think he will trade with Yan, but I think he'll keep him guessing. So he's got the element of surprise that is going to work in his favour, because he can put this fight anywhere, and in theory, he is better on the deck and at wrestling.
I'm glad that you brought up about his sort of transitions, because Sterling transitions very, very well in all sort of facets within the cage. But one thing that I particularly found when I was looking through a lot of Petr Yan is his transitions throughout his boxing, or kickboxing if you like to call it, is so fluid, so smooth, that he opens up so many avenues of attack. So when he's just applying this pressure, he's not just coming from an orthodox stance. He mixes it into southpaw so well, so fluid, that he just creates so many opportunities for himself to make it in the simplest way possible. So it's going to be difficult for Aljamain, but I think this is why it makes it so exciting, because if you're going to have that sort of style of Petr Yan, you want to see it against someone like Aljamain, who, like you said,
funky.
Exactly, who you don't know what he's going to come with, because it's all well and good Petr Yan having this approach, but it's hard to implement that if you have someone that's completely erratic, if you have someone that's going to try and do a little bit of everything, because it's hard to sort of strategize in that situation, if that makes sense.
I think even the way Aljo can move his head sometimes, he can be susceptible to a high kick. And we've seen from Yan, he's got some sneaky head kick setups, some real sneaky head kick setups. You've seen it in the Riviera fight and the Uriah Faber fight. So that is definitely something to look out for in terms of the style matchup.
It's interesting you said that as well, because very, very similarly, when I was having a look through Petr Yan's fights, we know he's an exceptional boxer. We know that already, and he has really lovely head movement behind that, as you would a boxer. The thing that I think is going to make it interesting is, I think, and especially the video that I was just watching actually with the anatomy of the fighter, it was Sterling's one, and it was in his camp, and it was just his wrestling and whatnot, and he was talking about all this cage work that he was doing, and you saw that on the show against Sandhagen. 40 minutes, he got him up to the cage. 40 seconds, that would be an impressive fight. 40 seconds, got him up to the cage and submitted him with an impressive submission. I was just thinking, I think it was Dan Hardy mentioned as well, which sort of poses the question, if he gets him up to that cage, which he's probably going to look to do at some point, obviously, if he sort of angles in well and Yan has that head movement, exactly like what you said, I think Sterling could potentially even sort of play the Matador. Matador, is that the right person?
Yeah.
Matador a little bit. Corner him in the right way, bring him out where he needs to against the cage and set him up for that high kick as well, because we know that Aljamain Sterling's limbs are just so loose.
He's very flexible, very funky. He throws quite a lot of loop shots as well, which I think against Yan could beat him to the punch, because Petr Yan is a straight sharpshooter down the pipe. Like, he throws some nice hooks. He'll step through to southpaw.
You know what he is.
But his straight shots are vicious, and then he'll get you slipping out of the way of those straight shots, and he'll fire the head kick down that same side as he did to Riviera. So it's a very interesting fight. I think Yan is going to have to wrestle defensively. I think Aljo is a good wrestler, a great wrestler that has high-level jiu-jitsu as well. So we've seen Yan in trouble before against Magomed, his name is, a wrestler who kind of controlled him a bit. So Aljo has got that ability, but that was a long time ago. So he's definitely evolved, and he knows he's a good striker. So he knows the blueprints out there that they need to take him down. So he's definitely working on it, you know.
I think like what you said as well, in terms of Aljamain Sterling being not erratic, that's not the word to use.
Funky's perfect.
Funky. Yeah, funky is
perfect.
The thing. But sometimes what comes with funky is, like you said, his shots can sometimes be, especially when you compare that to Petr Yan, who is a straight shooter, straight down the pipe, textbook, can be a little bit loopy. And we've seen Yan before. He slides so well out of punches. He slips and slides out of punches.
His striking is
well.
beautiful. His striking is beautiful.
Incredible. But as soon as he slips, that gets him into that position of a clinch, and he works very, very well with the clinch as well. And he'll want to look to get those knees involved. I can't remember what the fight I was watching just now was, but it was exactly that. It was a couple of loopy punches that he managed to just slip, get in the clinch, and then he caused damage on the exit. So I would be surprised if I didn't see that at least once. At least once. But I feel like I'm just watching a very polished version of Sterling now. He's been around. I feel like
it's Aljo's time. It's Aljo's time. I just feel it.
You're right. And I was having a look at the predictions, and I was looking at Sterling, and the more I was looking into him and the more I was watching and the more I was I think sometimes it's important when you have a look at predictions. I know it sounds stupid because they're always going to say, oh, I'm going to win. But I think you have to look at the sort of behind the scenes of the fighter, them just speaking about their experience, their journey, where they're at, where they think this fight's going to go. Because as soon as I started watching that, I really started looking to sort of, I won't sort of spoilers here for the predictions, but I was really starting to sway with Sterling. Like we said before, he's got that 4-inch reach advantage. He's got nice kicks. He does have very, very nice kicks. And we saw that. And I think he's going to want to stand at range with Yan. He's got that advantage, and he's going to want to sort of play with that in and out style. I think the thing where he can maybe look to do some damage, or what's the phrase that Dan Hardy used, water in the basement sort of thing, is those low kicks early. We saw Petr Yan had a little bit of trouble defending those low kicks against Aldo. I mean, I know it is Aldo, one of the best low kickers of all time, but I think at least if he can do something to slow him down, we know he's not going to go for a takedown. We know he's going to be heavy on that lead leg as a very sort of strong boxing style. I think if he can, not necessarily he's going to knock him out with those low kicks, but if he can do some damage from the off, obviously it's me talking about kicks, like, obviously, you know, I always want to see that. But I think if he can do that to slow him down early, I think that's going to pay dividends later in the fight.
Yeah, this may come as a shock, people, but we may see some calf kicks. Stuff online, you know, people are like, the calf kick should be banned.
I've seen that. I've seen like some strong arguments for it as well.
Stop with that.
I thought when I heard it, I can't remember where I saw it last or where I sort of saw it first. My first thought was, what are you going to implement? No calf kicks? A certain limit of calf kicks?
Yeah, like that works. It's effective. It's a fight. Like, where do we draw the line?
And then you're going to have like a difficulty of, was that the thigh? Was that the knee? Was that the calf? It just, there's a lot of complications there.
You get a 5-minute timeout if you get calf kicked.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, do you put that in place? Do you put a 5-minute timer?
Definitely not.
Even
they were trying to do the same thing with the oblique kicks, right? They were trying to, because when Till was smashing up Wonderboy with oblique kicks, he was like trying to get him banned, but that's just never going to happen.
Funny
But
thing
then,
is, he came out and said that, didn't he?
yeah, but then Till got his knee stamped by Whitaker, and he was like, they should be banned. So full circle.
That's what made me laugh. That's what I meant. So after that fight, when he came out, which was a good fight, I actually did like it. He came out and he was like, "Oh, I understand why people wanted them banned. They are horrible," which they are, to be fair as well.
Yeah.
But the thing with Sterling as well is what you mentioned earlier. He has very, very good wrestling.
Very good.
Very, very good. I said it with a serious eyes.
Yeah.
And he has a very, very good single leg. But Petr Yan has 88% takedown defense.
Yeah, but he's never. I don't think he's ever fought a wrestler like Aljo that can mix it up on the feet. And then it's a wrestler's overhand, right? Fake the shot, come over the top.
Yeah.
It's the element of surprise. I think we'll see early Aljo's plan. If he takes him down early and Jan's like, fuck, like this guy's taking me down, I think we'll start to see it unfold a little bit. Yeah, again, we're going to find out.
How do you, this is not always some fights is more important than others. Well, not more important, but sometimes more of an emphasis on it. How do you think that they're going to come out? And more of that question is emphasis on Sterling. How do you think that he's going to, when that bell goes, what do you think his strategy is?
But people always like,
coming off the back of Sandhagen, obviously. That's why I say that.
People always like, oh, he's going to come out aggressive. Like, to an extent, right? There's like, he's not just going to rush at him. Like, they are still high level fights. If you run at anyone like that, they're gonna run you onto something. So he'll be patient getting in, but once he's in. You know, he'll try and get him towards the fence, maybe mix up the shots, and like even if he needs to get him to defend shots and get him tired, and then once the shots there, the hands drop, we come over the top. I know Aljo keeps tweeting father's plan, which is obviously what Khabib used to say when he smashed somebody. So I think that's his mindset going into it. He's releasing a lot of clips of him grappling, him teaching wrestling classes. So he's high level and he mixes it up well. So he's a problem for Yan. He's got his hands full. They both do, you know.
I wouldn't even be surprised, and we sort of see this every so often in the UFC and with some fighters more than others because of a bit more showmanship. But I wouldn't even be surprised if it was a little bit of a bluff from Sterling. We know he's a good wrestler. We know he's a very elite level wrestler. We don't need to see any more clips of him doing that. We're very sure of that. But the more he sort of, not to say it will be affecting Petr Yan too much, I don't think he's going to change his approach. But the more you see of that, and it's sort of in your head, you think, right, he's going to come with this approach, and then who's to say there isn't a ton of other stuff in the pipeline? Because you have to think, we didn't see anything against Sandhagen. It was 40 seconds. We didn't see anything we haven't seen before.
And it wasn't even a takedown. He just got on his back and then it was just over from there. Yeah, when someone's a good wrestler, right? So what I'm seeing from Aljamain Sterling, his funkiness on the feet, he throws with so much confidence because he's out there and he truly believes, and he probably is, the best grappler in the division. So like, he's probably thinking, what are you going to do? Try and take me down? Yeah, mind your neck. Your neck's going to get strangled. I'm going to stuff it. You're in a bad spot. I'm now on top.
He feels like it's a bit of a win-win almost. And I was just watching, I said, the Anatomy of a Fighter. And when he started wrestling, and I'm going to drop a fun little fact in here.
Talk to me.
You may not know, or maybe you do. He actually went to school with John Jones.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. That was a strange one. But as I was saying, when he started, he actually sort of had the mindset, had the approach of, I can have a bit of fun because I'm going to take this to the floor, and ultimately I know that's where I'm going to be dominant, and I'm very comfortable there. I know I'm probably going to get finished, or I know I can dominate the entire fight. So I think now where he's got older, he's got more mature, he fights out of an incredible camp with some incredible fighters in there as well. The video I was just watching, he was training with Brandon Moreno, who actually I very much like. Not even that was the biggest name, no disrespect to him. But I think now he's just a bit more seasoned. I think he's even more confident to go there and to stand and trade and to throw some shots and to throw some exciting shots as well, because he thinks, you're going to get caught with something, or this is going to go to the canvas, and I'm going to see you off there. So he's a pretty exciting fighter.
Yeah, as a better grappler, you can definitely afford to let it go on the feet a little bit. Like, Jan's got some good trips, but I don't think he's going to be needing them. His path to victory, for me anyway, is on the feet. Running Aljo onto something.
What I'm going to ask you next, the $1 million question. Your predictions for the fight: how, when, what, why, who? That was it.
5 W's. So I thought Aljo is just a really, really bad matchup for Yan. So I'm gonna go. I think again it'll be a good fight. I think Aljo will win a decision, in my humble opinion. Let me know what you think.
Like what you said, I think on this whole card, and especially the title fights, I think this is one that can literally go either way. I wouldn't be, put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised whoever won and however it happened. I just won't be surprised, whatever it is. Maybe if Yan comes out with a crazy submission, then maybe I'll be a little bit shocked. But I think if these fighters fight 10 times, I genuinely feel like there could just be 10 different outcomes.
Yeah, no doubt.
It could literally be the case of Yan comes out, puts on an absolute striking masterclass, and just sort of has Sterling on the ropes from early, does damage and just finishes him. Or it could be the complete opposite. It could be Sterling comes out and pushes him to the fence, wrestles with him a little bit, and then he's got a submission. But it literally could be a million other things. So it's a very convoluted way of saying my answer.
Let's hear it.
Like I said at the start, I was very much favouring Petr Yan. Very, very clinical fighter. Not a lot of areas of weakness to his game.
Oh, he's the full package for sure.
The more I just watch Sterling, the more
he's really growing on me. I didn't dislike him before, but he's just really growing on me. I just like his attitude.
Because these two fighters have a little bit of animosity between each other.
Yeah, there is a bit.
Yeah, there's not hate, I would say, but
they've had their run-ins though. Like, you know,
the thing is with Sterling, which really was the tipping point on my sort of prediction. And as I'm speaking, I'm going to say Sterling, and this is why. I think when he even tried to get the fight before, he's fought for a long while now that he deserves that title shot, and he should have that title shot. And I don't think anyone sort of disagrees with that. But had the Aldo Yan fight, and he was trying to get that Yan fight for ages. I think he got it, but it didn't happen. And I just feel like he's been in this mindset, this drive, the more I watch him since that day. And I don't feel like, he's gone into a camp for Petr Yan, because he has actually had 2 camps for this fight. I don't feel like he's gone into one camp and has been like, right, okay, let's go, let's start. I feel like this has been in the works for a long time now. And that's just what makes me think that he's going to maybe just have that slight edge, not in ability.
He's hungry.
Yeah, not in ability. I just feel like he's just going to want it that bit more than Petr Yan. So I'm going to say Sterling. And I'm going to say he goes the distance. Did you say the same?
Yeah.
No, I can't say that. No way.
Can it go
on? No way. Can't have 2 of the same predictions. I'm going to say, I'll make a bold one then. My first one would have been, 5 rounds on Sterling. So I'll make a second one. I'm going to say a 4th round knockout is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say late just because I'm going to just...
What, for Sterling?
Yeah, for Sterling. I'm just going to sort of will into existence of what I said. I think he's going to break him down a little bit with those kicks. I think he's going to try and stay at range. I think he's going to try and just wear him down, create some damage, hurt the arms, hurt the forearms, slow down that lead leg. And I just think he's going to walk onto something exciting in the late rounds, maybe the 4th. So I'm going to say Sterling 4th knockout.
I'm excited for that one.
Anything else to add before we go?
No, that's it really, man. I think we covered all bases. We've got 3 more days. Tune in tomorrow for the Nunes versus Megan Anderson breakdown. And let's just keep growing, keep smashing out the content. And we're glad you're listening, whoever you are listening.
And I think that pretty much wraps us up for today. So as Frank said, thank you for tuning in. We've been Casual's Corner, and you've been one of our many, many viewers. Any questions, anything at all, please write in the comments, and also write in the comments who you've got as your predictions. I'd love to see them, and hopefully look back and say you were very right, probably because we're not going to be. Follow us on all social medias. You know the drill by now. Love and peace.